Hi everyone, it is week 4 test review for the test you're taking tomorrow on Thursday. I hope you had a good time lap booking, fun lap booking this week. And then Monday, the chapter that I gave you in class, chapter 8, somebody had a question about page 95, but 95 is in here. It's just that I put 96 first before 95. So everything should have been included in your packet. This is chapter 8, Story of the Constitution. It's what most of your test is going to be on. Everything is fair game for the test, but most of the test is going to be on this. So if you just review, things that we've gone over a lot in class and your information from chapter 8, you should be okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over to some things that may be on the test just so you can review and make sure you know them. So I'm looking at the first page here, the preamble of the Constitution. What is the purpose of the preamble? What does it do? And it says right under it, gives you the information right here, declares the purpose of the Constitution. Preamble is kind of like, this is what this document is about, and this is what we're stating. So the preamble definitely declares what the Constitution is about. Of course, the Bill of Rights in the beginning of the Constitution are the rights. You can look at the Bill of Rights and you can look at the Declaration of Independence and you can see the similarities. The things we're accusing King George of doing to us and not treating us as citizens and taking away our rights are the very thing we put in the Bill of Rights. Matter of fact, they wanted to go ahead and ratify the Constitution and then go back later and put in the Bill of Rights. And I know we've talked about this on another video, but some of the people like Patrick Henry and Samuel Adams and people that had fought long and hard for this said, no, no, no. We're going to put the Bill of Rights in or we're not going to ratify this thing, because if we can't have guns and we don't have a certain amount of rights, we can't speak out against the government. All the things are in the bill. We can assemble, have the right to assemble. If all those things weren't in the Bill of Rights, they thought, crazy government could get a hold of it again and be just like King George, where they tell you what religion you have to be. You have to be Catholic, then you have to be Protestant, then Catholic, then Protestant. All of that in the Bill of Rights. You can have your own religion, you can have guns, you can have the right to speak, the right to assemble, you have the right to really declare what's wrong and, tell the government what's wrong without fear that you'll be thrown in jail, that you're allowed to have a jury of your peers. All those rights are put in the Constitution. Matter of fact, if you know anybody that's ever been arrested, that you have the right to remain silent. You have a right to an attorney. Everything you say can be held against you in the court of law. Your rights are told you right there when you're arrested, because you have certain rights as being an American citizen. Okay? And anyway, so that's the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. Very important. All right, on this page right here, page number 93, it has, I like this chart. I think we reviewed it on the first week, but it has the executive branch, the legislative, and the judicial branch. And of course, they shouldn't be under here like this. They should be kind of side by side, even though the judicial branch at first it's really not supposed to be side by side, but that's kind of how the precedent has kind of made it. And you have all these departments that are under the president, and they all make up his cabinet. So you have the Department of Agriculture, Department of Commerce, Department of Defense, Department of Education, Department of Energy, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Veterans Affairs, Department of the Treasury. All those make up his cabinet, and there's many, many more today that we've gone over. So all those are his cabinet. So Secretary of State and Attorney General would be included in those. So if anybody on his cabinet, and here's the executive, that's the president at the helm. If anybody in his cabinet, for instance, if the Secretary of State goes out to another land and says, I'm going to make this treaty with you, the Secretary of State, who used to be Hillary Clinton but is now John Kerry, whatever he says, and if he signs a treaty, and they can sign a treaty, they can sign agreements and everything on the behalf of the United States. I'm sorry, treaties are Congress, but on behalf of the United States, they can, they can proclaim things, they can talk to a government and all that. Well, they have the full weight of the United States. It's as if President Obama was doing it, because he can't be everywhere at one time. So they have got full authority with each one of them. You might hear of, like, Department of Agriculture can go out and they can look at your 3,000 acres that you're about to sell to the cowboys and say there's a rare cricket on that property and you're not allowed to sell. So they have tremendous power, and the power has grown over the years, which isn't necessarily a good thing. Because some people question, what about my right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? I can't sell my land, or I can't do certain things, can't build on the land because of a grasshopper, or a flea, or an ant, a rare ant, or a frog, or just all kinds of crazy things. All right, so that's your cabinet. We need to know some of those departments just because it's good to know. All right, and I'm looking through. It has some of the privileges of Congress and what Congress is allowed to do. I'm going to want to know that you know those. Some of the things that they're allowed to do and some of the things they're not allowed to do. Also, federal government versus state. So you have your federal government. I'm looking at nothing in particular, but federal government, think about it as a big rainbow. Federal government up here and then the state governments. If the states say abortion is legal, the state here, but then the federal government, like in Roe v. Wade, outlawed abortion, that supersedes the state rights. So in your chapter, it talks about what states cannot do. Like states cannot make treaties with other countries. So it has some things that states cannot do. I'll probably want you to know that. All right, and who is some of the departments we've talked about? We've talked about who... John Kerry is the Secretary of State. We've talked about Attorney General is Eric Holder. Good. He looks like Stedman. I always throw that in. And then also in your chapter, it talks about the Senate and the House of Representatives. There are two parts that make up the Congress. Who is the Senate supposed to represent? There's two people from each state. And who is the House of Representatives supposed to represent? And that's something you need to know. The Senate is actually supposed to represent the state. So the two senators from Texas are supposed to represent Texas. The House of Representatives, all the representatives are supposed to represent the people. So the House of Representatives represents the people. Senate represents the states. I think that's kind of important. Let's see what else is. Qualifications. What qualifies you? We talked about this one time, but what are the qualifications to be president? I think that's important to know. You need to be 35 years of age. You need to have lived in the United States for 14 years. And let's see, 35 lived in. Oh, and you have to be a United States citizen. So I was not born in the United States. I was born in Japan. But because my dad was in the military, I'm a U.S. citizen. But I would have had to have lived here for 14 years. So I couldn't have, even though I can be a dual citizen with Japan, I can't have lived in Japan all this time, then come back here and run for president. So the qualifications are important. Qualifications. It talks about in the Congress what a filibuster is. That's very important. Filibusters. If you've ever, there's some movies, old movies that talk about filibusters, and it's super important where you just take over the floor of the House. In your chapter, it talks about a filibuster. That's very important. You'll hear that your whole life. Matter of fact, sometimes when I'm talking, my husband's deaf, so he has to kind of read my lips, and he won't look at me, and he'll kind of keep talking what he wants to say, and I always say, "You are filibustering me." So we always talk about that. How can a member of the House be expelled for disorderly conduct? What kind of vote is needed in the House to expel them? Let's see what else I think might be on the test. Oh, how does Congress vote itself a raise? Have you ever wondered that? How in bad economic times Congress can get a raise? Have you ever wondered that? I think, and then everything that Congress does, everything is put on the congressional record. So one of my friends used to work for the old Speaker of the House, Dick Armey, and when she retired, they read this thing about her, and it was entered into the congressional record. So she is in the official congressional record. Anybody, you guys, anybody can go look up your senators, your congressmen, and see how they voted, and everything is in the congressional record. If it wasn't, can you imagine what they would do? So that's very important that we have that because we can go all the way back. It's in the National Archives, and we can go all the way back and find out what's on the record. There should be no dispute about the whole thing. Excuse me, somebody's at the door. I'll continue with part 2.